So, now I am gonna be pacing around more in the background and not just sitting directly in the chair because it is helping me walk through. I do feel more comfortable doing it this way. Now, based on the title of the video, I'm trying to keep it as PC as possible. This video is talking about the rise of the bullshit meta and the fall of the sustain meta. Hi-Rez was really pushing this big thing about ending the burst meta. And they're talking about ending the burst meta when they took out a lot of cards. For example, all the inbuilt cauterized cards left, crowd control cards, they opened up the item shop to everybody. And the sustain meta is supposed to begin with Amani. Which I find that funny how the sustain meta is supposed to begin with a character that has a giant fucking dragon that wipes everyone off the fucking face of the game. Now, I actually don't have a problem with Amani. I think she's pretty balanced. That's the sad part. However, the sustain meta is not a thing in the game. Now, I do want to mention, I am going to start I will be showcasing at a point all of my games that I've played over the past few days and talk about the sustain meta. And you're going to see a lot of damages on there, a lot of damage flank, because I really haven't been playing tank support because I'm tired of it. I'm really tired of it right now. There's no reason for me to play tank or support when there's no chance of me to win on playing tank or support, or to have fun on tank or support. And I do want to talk about 4 of the reasons why the sustain meta just doesn't exist. But I put that warning up at the beginning. If I showcase your name and you do not want your name showed, I do apologize in advance for that. I'm putting up a warning if any of you managed to watch this video and, you know, maybe you had a bad game and I showed your stats and I made you look bad. This is not, any of the names that I showed does not reflect the people that are in them. I will call out if there was a certain person or something that was toxic, and I don't mind, you can shit on them all you want. But I do want to mention that any of the stats that I'm showing, you saw all the red, you saw all the losses. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins on there, and the rest are all losses. That just goes to show you how bad a performance it is. And there are some ranked on here, there's TDM Onslaught, there's a few sieges, but most of it is casual. Now, for casual, I qualify, by the way, as high elo. I qualify in high plat, low diamond usually. And then I usually can fight my way up to mid to high diamond. I've been as high as master. I've been as low as gold 5. And I routinely, in casual, play against masters and grandmasters because I have a high elo. So that's something to mention. People say, oh, it's because you're going up against strong people. That has nothing to do with it. So looking at a couple of things here. Let's start with the first thing of note is the item shop. Now, a lot of champions got something removed from their kit in the form of inbuilt cauterize. And for certain characters, this was a good thing. This was a needed thing, like Leon losing death and taxes. That was needed. However, in some cases, a champion like Vivian, this is a bad thing. Now, they opened up the item shop to everyone. Now, she lost Sapper rounds. That was Wrecker too. In a game, there was no real need for you to buy Wrecker, because what you would do is you would just get Sapper rounds, and then you could get either Deft Hands or Cauterize, and you would be set. You would still have one of those problems as a weakness. Now, Vivian doesn't have that weakness. Now, Vivian can buy Wrecker and Caught and Deft Hands and have all 3 items. And this leads to everyone on the team being able to destroy the other side. Tanks are pretty much useless in this game right now. Same thing with healers. Like, I mean, you'll see some of the stats. It literally just comes down to who gets Wrecker first, who gets more Wrecker, and who gets more Caught first, and who gets more Deft Hands first. Faster bullets, less healing off of them, and more damage to shields. Tanks are evaporated. And the fact that everyone can now buy Cauterize takes away a lot of the skill requirements. For example, Talus is a great example of this. And you used to have the card Antediluvian, which Antediluvian is the card that now increases the duration of overcharge. That used to be Cauterize on your overcharge. Now, the problem with this is Talus used to, if you used to run an Antediluvian Talus, you would focus primarily on using your overcharge to burst down targets so you didn't have to buy Cauterize. And you could buy Deft Hands or Wrecker in-game, or you could still buy Cauterize if you didn't have Antediluvian very high in a build, for example. For example, I only ran one Antediluvian build, so on the rest of my builds I would buy Cauterize, but on my Antediluvian I would buy a Wrecker or a Deft Hands. A Wrecker if they had like a Torvald or a Vivian that was going to be more in the back that I need to focus down, and a Deft Hands if I just wanted to keep pace with everybody. Now there's no need for that. This build would not have been possible before. Now part of that is because they took a Raging Demon and turned it into Antediluvian, giving it the extra second of overcharge. But that's not the point. The point I'm trying to mention here, and I think is a pretty critical one, is the fact that now I don't have to, I can buy Caught, Wrecker, Deft Hands, whatever I need, so there's no need for me to focus that. That means at the beginning of a game, I can focus on Caught 3 and get it out the gate. See, the requirement of getting Caught 3 has never really changed. That's the funny part. You can buy, in a Siege game, you can buy Cauterize 1 at the beginning of the game, and then if you were to cap the first point, you get that bonus 300 credits. So you'll have 100 credits left over, and you get 300 for capping points. So basically you need to come up with 200 credits with the actions that you do in trying to cap the point, dealing damage, healing, sitting on the point, etc. And now you have Caught 3. So by the time the game is at 1-0, you already have Caught 2. That's a pretty powerful thing. That's basically what Vivian had with Zaparans at the gate. Oh, I forgot to shut my alarm off on my phone. My apologies. My apologies on that. And one of the big problems that I have with this setup is people talk about, well, the rise of the sustain meta, you have to buy Cauterize, but you know what that means? So our team consists of, let me see if I can find a good row, yeah. Our team consists of Moji, Pip, Ruckus, Saris, and Sha Lin, right? You know how many people get Cauterize? Moji, Pip, Ruckus, Saris, and Sha Lin. They can all buy Cauterize. Now, if the enemy team, let's say, is the group right above, Khan, Genos, Anar, Grover, Grok, that would be kind of stupid. Everyone's going to buy Cauterize, obviously. But I'm just using it because they're close to each other. Well, we have 2 deployables and we have 2 tanks. So Sha Lin's going to go for Wrecker, Ruckus is going to go for deployables, Pip will probably go for both and maybe reload speed, Moji goes for whatever most annoying, and Saris, if she's on a healing build, doesn't have to go for any of that. This more of a DPS team with Saris on heals, Pip on Catalyst, Moji, Ruckus, and Sha Lin would actually beat this team because you have 3 healers and 2 tanks. Even though this is the ideal form of a sustained meta, with multiple healers keeping multiple big strong tanks alive, using the tanks to push. Maybe damage Genos, damage Grok with a healing Grover, Anara sitting on point, and Khan bullying with, say, a Storm of Bullets type build. But the problem with that is, that doesn't work. That meta no longer works in this game right now, and that's partially a big problem. The meta doesn't apply anymore. Their own sustained meta doesn't apply. One of the reasons is the item shop. For example, when I play Moji, I get Life Rip and Kill to Heal out of the gate right now, because those are the 2 big cards I need to sustain myself with the amount of damage I need. I don't need a healer if I have the Life Rip and the Kill to Heal. So that's problem A. Now problem B is this. So because I have that, I can sustain myself. I don't need a healer. There are less healers that are required anymore. Which means the more healers that are brought into game, the more Cauterize is picked up. Even if you're not healing, even if you run a team that consists of 2 or 3 damage healers, a Maldamba on Wakona's Curse, a Grok on Maelstrom, and just for the hell of it, maybe an Agony Saris. The problem is, you're still going to be healing, at the very least, yourself. Maldamba still has Gourd, Grok still has Totem, Saris, she just has to not press L1. Or L2. Her L1 still heals her. They all can heal themselves, which means that you're still buying Cauterize to deal with them. Now, the problem that I really have with this is the fact that now Cauterize is more prevalent than ever by removing it. And I find it funny because if you look at a lot of the loadouts, you know, Cassie and Drogos, I'd like to use them as examples, but they lost inbuilt Caught and they lost health so they got a health card to replace it. So I'm using Androxus because he really didn't get touched. The old One Punch Man build used to have Spiteful, which was enemies hit with Defiance took 75% reduced healing for 3 seconds at level 5. Now, I don't need that card in my build anymore. I have absolutely 100% no need for that build. I can put that in, though. I need to... hold on. Which means that the problem is, I can now put Vengeance at level 5. This gives me an effective way. If I'm dueling with another flank at close range, and I win off of my punch, I can heal myself back to half health, if not higher, automatically. And I can dash to get away. This gives me the ability to reset my health, basically. This gives me much more sustain options. So they wanted to trade damage and sustain, or damage for sustain, by removing Cauterize and giving you sustain. But the problem with something like this is Androxus is a champion that already has sustain. This is giving him too much sustain, and it just means that I'm going to buy all 3 red items in-game and not have to worry about anything. The second problem that I see, this is a video I wanted to put on, I wanted to make another video about this, sorry, but I decided not to, is the fact that the supports all got a major nerf. Now, I firmly believe that if you are playing healer, you are going to run a healing-based card. So an example of that is Ceres used to have Mortal Reach and Void Abides. Now, yes, Void Abides did get put into her base kit. However, that doesn't mean it didn't come without a nerf. Just as though Celestial Touch got put into his base kit, it also came with a nerf. And the problem in this regard is that both of these champions right now are damaged champions. There are a lot of healers in the game that lost secondary healing cards. For example, Maldamba lost Ripened Gourd, which reset the cooldown randomly on your gourd. It wasn't a very strong heal, but it was considered a healing-based card, and that really is a problem on him. He lost one dedicated healing card and is now left with a healing, a CC, and a damage. Pip and Grok and Furia are the strongest champions because they kept their healing abilities. Ceres lost Void Abides, it became base kit, but it does less healing. So in my opinion, all they basically did was give her a slight amount of AoE to her. It's not very strong. The fact of the matter that more people are running Mortal Reach, and it gives you that extra second duration with a slight AoE is the only thing. If you're not running Agony, if you're running Agony or Soul Collector, you're not doing the same healing that Mortal Reach Ceres is doing. I know that kind of makes sense because, well, you're running a healing card over a damage card, but the intention was that by putting Void Abides base kit, you would pick another option on Ceres. You would pick something else, and you would play her a bit more instead of this one cookie cutter shape of just spam heal, spam heal, spam heal. But unfortunately, Ceres doesn't work unless you're spam healing. You're either spam healing or you're going to get spammed need healing. Because if you're running Agony or Soul Collector, you are not putting out the maximum amount of healing, people are going to get upset. You know, Genos got probably the biggest nerf of all. Genos completely lost the only healing card he had. I do not consider Luminary to be a healing card. And this is really a situation where people say he's better now than ever. Bullshit. My options are all damage based now. I am not playing a support champion. I am playing a damage champion that can heal. His healing got nerfed because if you ran Celestial Touch as a healing card, he got nerfed because he lost half of that card. He lost half of it outright. And the fact that his healing is still weak and they didn't give him a better health card. He basically, Luminary is the closest into a healing card as you're going to get. So I guess they did it for people who were bitching and complaining that not enough people picked Luminary, I guess. You know, you look at Grover. Grover got a nerf. People can say, oh, well, he's much more sustainable because there's no inbuilt caught at the beginning of the game. Piss off. Rampant Blooming is a weak healing card. The problem with Grover right now is, like Genos, he doesn't have a strong enough healing card. He's more reminiscent of Maldamba. Only Maldamba has Spirit's Chosen, which is stronger than Rampant Blooming. By losing the bonus healing on the passive heal, he is very weak. Now, the increase in radius to his base kit is nice, but the problem that you have is the fact that your other two options are damage based. Deep Roots for cripples on point, and Ferocity for long range damage. Rampant Blooming is meant to be a close range heal that gives you a slight boost in healing to allies that are near you, because it heals an additional 160 health per second for 4 seconds. So basically, it's going to heal for just short of 800. Just call it that. I'm going to round it up to 200, and we'll do it that way because I'm tired. But no, he got a big nerf. That passive heal was a big part of Grover's healing. Another great example would be Grok. Grok got Spirit's Domain buffed and Totematic Ward nerfed, but they took out some of his sustain in Wraith. Yes, Wraith was a Mimi build that really didn't do much healing, but the fact of the matter is, he was able to quite effectively defend himself on Wraith. Now he's become entirely subservient and reliant, if you want to run a tank Grok, to Totematic Ward, to being able to not be affected by CC. He's still strong. He's one of the strongest healers in the meta right now, but he's also annoying as fuck because he has a little bit of sustain but not enough. Another example to look at is Furia. Furia is a champion that lost Celerity, which gave her some more mobility. She kept both of her healing cards, which makes her stronger, but Solar Blessing is still weak as ever, at least in my opinion. The last big one is Ying. Ying losing Life Exchange means this: you either do damage or you run Life Exchange where you can't do any damage. Ying has been shoehorned into a very odd position. She has the ability to do fantastic maximum healing output, or she has the ability to do good sustainable damage output, but she cannot do both. She has no way to heal and damage. I tried doing Resonance with healing and damage. Now, my game did crash right at the end of the game. It was an onslaught. It was like 360 to 340 or something like that, and we ended up losing the last 60 points when I bought it out. The problem that I have is I only did 16,000 healing that game, and I was running Resonance. If you're not running Life Exchange, you are not getting above 50k healing more than likely. And that's a problem. Basically, Ying is either played for Life Exchange or damage, whether it's focusing lenses or Resonance. And people tell me, well, you know, if you're playing Resonance, you're not focusing on healing with your clones. You need to run focusing lenses, which I refuse to run. So, the supports getting nerfed is another big thing. The third thing I want to mention, single-handedly, is the buff to Koga, that turns Koga into an unkillable raging demon from hell that needs to be burned and obliterated from gaming history altogether. But seeing as they are insistent upon not doing that, we're not going to talk about it. The last big change is the meta itself has changed. And it changed in the opposite direction that I'm assuming Hi-Rez wanted. I'm assuming Hi-Rez wanted more healers and more tanks and wanted longer point fights. That's not happening. Alright, so this is where we're going to start. This is me playing Amani. This was grouped up. And if you look at the numbers, so this is how this game went. So, Chorizo jumped on Talus right away. Dox was bouncing between multiple characters saying, oh, I'm throwing, oh, I'm throwing, oh, I'm throwing, and trying to joking around. He went to Bomb King, who he's trying to learn. I grabbed Imani because I wanted to play as Imani. So, Wolf said, basically Wolf came down to, well, there's no reason for me to play tank support if nobody else is going to. The rando picked tank. We don't have a support. If you're not willing to step up and play tank support, it doesn't matter. Now, I have been getting pissed off at this point because we didn't have tanks or supports all fucking day. And when we did have them, it was because we were playing them and we were getting our asses handed to us by all DPS. Their team had a healer, their team had a tank, and they won that game. So this was the new meta not working against the old meta, which was one of the reasons why I got pissed off. This was me playing damage Damba, because there was no point in me playing healing Damba, because the last time I played, we lost. And I got tired of this shit. Now we had a tank. This was actually a rather close loss, believe it or not. That was the funny part. This was relatively close. I mean, I had decent healing and I had good damage. I would have, if I didn't do so much healing, I would have done more damage and vice versa. But, again, the problem was they got beat by the traditional team comp. We lost to the traditional team comp. We couldn't contain it. Okay? Here, this simply came down to the fact that no one wanted to group up and we were on Dragon's Arena. I'm not going to even talk about that one. This is this, right? This is a standard team comp right here going up against another standard team comp, and we won that one simply because of the fact that we were pushing their base aggressively. Our Vivian was capping point for us in the onslaught. We all pushed the enemy base and started spawn camping them. And that's pretty much the only reason we won. If we weren't spawn camping, we wouldn't have won. Okay? This is the game I was talking about with the onslaught game. Once again, there's no tank here. The other team has a tank and a healer. They run traditional meta. And that's really the problem. In TDM and Onslaught, the traditional meta works. Because pretty much anything will work in TDM Onslaught nowadays. But in Siege, which we'll get to in a few minutes, that's not the case. This is an example of what I'm talking about. We run the traditional setup in Siege, and we have absolutely no... We lost this like 0-4, I think, or 3... I don't even remember how we lost this game. I know we lost this by a lot. We could not touch them. They had more DPS than we could heal. Just plain and simple. And I feel bad here because I did emote. I kept emoting. Like, I knew I could not beat the Koga. So anytime he would just start coming after me with claws, and he had at least one other person, I just emoted. There was no point in me even trying in that situation because I was fed up at that point. I was fed up at that part of the day. I was done. This is me playing tank, and we get blown out of the water. Now, the funny part is, they were not on point at all. Their Victor was on point the entire enemy team push. So I'm considering Makoa to be a damage here. And this is, again, this is what we did in the previous game. We had one person on point, and everyone spawn camped. But they weren't spawn camping. They were fighting off the point, between the point and the spawn camp on Magistrate's Archive. Plain and simple. This is me in ranked. Traditional team comp. 0-4. 0-4. Damage. Their Ying did not do basically any healing. They just ran straight damage against us and won. Because the sustain meta is bullshit. And you can look, you can see, it's a good mix of items. Next game, Tyra. This is me running DPS. Okay, so we were running a DPS team. Now, this was a good game. This went 4-3. We lost this 4-3. We were winning most of the whole game, and then we ended up winning. The Genos, we reported for hacking because he ran all 3 of his legendary cards. He was running Binary Star and automatic firing Binary Star. He was literally hitting me 10 times a second, roughly, for 340 damage a shot. My health fucking disintegrated. And this was a situation, you know, this was actually a pretty good balanced game. I can't complain about this game too much. But at the end of the day, one of the problems is and this is the thing, look, caught 3, Deftans 3, we had a good amount of Wrecker, we had a good amount of Deftans. We won, but because of the fact that we just could not get past a couple other characters. We couldn't get past the Vivian and the Genos that were just running together as a group. You know, this was an example of the Vivian. This was a balanced team comp. This was the old school team comp that we would normally run. And the only reason that we run is we had we had double their healing and we had close to double their damage. We couldn't get any real pressure on the Dredge, but that was about it. The Dredge kind of sat back there and just had at it. Androxus, this is an onslaught. I mean, we won this game mostly because of the fact that they were all squishy characters. They ran all flank except for the Khan, so we just beat up on the flanks for the most part. This is a game, the entire enemy team was Grandmasters, so I'm not going to shit too much on that. But again, this was the problem, is they sat there and they just entirely protected their healer. And there was nothing we could really do about that. The best we could do is try and put out damage. We won this game. I don't even know how we won this game. This is an example of the new team comp winning over the old team comp. I mean, that was ridiculous. I could play one of my worst characters and we won. You know, this is us playing Dredge. We have a sustainable team comp here. Their Ruckus and their Ying just pushed. Their Ying was just full damage Ying. Like, literally full damage Ying. She was flanking and everything. The Ruckus was pretty much just on point. We just got blown out of the water on this game. And it was amazing to me because we had the objective time. We had more objective time than they did. It's simply we could not sustain the amount of damage we needed compared to what they were doing. Now, this is a TDM. This is from yesterday. We lost this game. We could not contend with the Koga. That's another problem. Just they had a Koga. So we move on. This is another loss. I was trying here, but the problem was we couldn't really focus on the point. They had a tank and they had a good point healer, and the problem was we really didn't have the Dredge and the Vivian doing anything. This is me playing Frontline. What was this? Oh, this was the Onslaught. This was Marauders, I believe. The only reason we won this again is because they ran the new team comp. We were able to sustain a little bit more. I was running ult spam, and I got a heal from Grover in between. That's all we won. We didn't have the damage. We didn't really have the objective time. We won the objective time, but not by a lot. This is me. I threw this game, kind of. I didn't play Life Exchange on Ying. I played Resonance. And the reason was, so we get into a game, right? So, Dox and Gamer insta-lock the 2 damages. This person picks Eevee. I picked Ying. I was planning on going Life Exchange. And this person waited until 2 seconds. Waited until not 2 seconds, but 3 seconds. Right before auto pick kicks in. And they pick Leon. They know full well we need a tank. They know full well. It's Frogile. We need a tank. And the other team technically got 2 tanks because they got Grok and they got Ruckus. Oh wait, no, 3 tanks. They have an Ashe. And we lost this because of that. And I wasn't going to heal. I just dropped clones. And I'm like, that was it. This game we almost lost because the fucking Victor was horrible. He literally sat in the same spot and just kept emoting. Like, half the game. This was a situation of we had the better sustain on point because we were able to put out more damage. We didn't necessarily have the healing, but we had the damage. And that's the thing. Damage wins right now. Moji. Everyone wanted to fuck around and run all healer. So I went healing Moji instead of damage Moji. Couldn't really do anything there. I mean, they had a balanced team comp. You know, we lost this one again. I believe this was this was the Onslaught. Nobody here had a tank. And it really came down to the fact that we could not kill them. We could do damage, but we couldn't kill them. You know, this was a TDM victory. And this just simply came down to the fact that, again, they didn't have a heal or a tank. And it's like, you can either run one healer or one tank and be successful, but if you run multiple healers and tanks, you're fucked. And you can't run multiple flanks. You can only have one flank. It's the damage show now. I think that's the problem. So, Iris, if you're watching this, I just want to let you know, your meta doesn't work. This sustain meta doesn't work. And I would much rather have Cauterize inbuilt into loadouts. And this is as a support and tank main. Not that button. I would much rather have those cards in my loadout. So, bye-bye.